What is up, Gorilla Nation, and welcome back to another Division 2 build video. But first, before we hop into the video, if you would be so kind, please show some love to that like button. Also, smash that sub button if you happen to be new to the channel. And don't forget to reach up there, trigger the bell, and turn on post notifications, so that way you never miss a live stream or a video that is uploaded. Well, as we all know, most of the content creators out there are just regurgitating builds using the same old broken mechanics, and you can't really blame them because they are the best in slot. But it's a cut and paste bot builds is basically all you see in the Dark Zone. There's no thinking outside the box. It's basically no thinking at all. It's all boxes, knee pads, and then the contractor's gloves, throw in a shield, intimidate, adrenaline rush, and then of course Lady Death, bada bing, and that's 90% of what you see in the Dark Zone. And it requires no thinking whatsoever. And they just want to put on best meta build, so powerful, and just basically clickbait the videos, and it's the same old regurgitated builds that you've seen for practically the last 4 months. Well, as you can see, I entered into the laboratory trying to find something that's a little different, that's a little unique in its dynamics and its mechanics, and not use the same old, just to give you another option out there as far as builds, where build diversity is very small and narrow currently right now, but it's very competitive. It just goes to show you, even with my low watch level at only like 442, and this build without using Fox's knee pads, without using the contractor's gloves, that you can still be competitive, that you can still melt, and don't have to just run the same old bot builds that you see day in and day out in the Dark Zone. So without further ado, let's hop right into it. As you can see, yes, I'm using the Lady Death. It is more or less the best in slot. As far as when it comes to SMGs in general, because no matter what build you have on, just like the Nemesis is basically the strongest weapon in the game. No matter what build you slap the Nemesis on, it can essentially one-tap. Just as the Lady Death, as long as you have the procced full charge of the Lady Death, and it's basically just moving side to side, strafing for a brief moment, and after a kill, when it speeds up your movement speed, then you can get that buff even quicker. But no matter how you do it, it stacks when moving, gain 4 stacks per second, or 8 stacks if sprinting, up to 38 stacks total. Each round fire consumes a stack, applying damage by 75%. Kills grant 20% movement speed. So it necessarily is the best in slot. So even on the back half of, let's say, this SMG here, the Banshee, which is base is 90.5k with measured, even getting that additional 30% weapon damage on the second half of the magazine still doesn't compare to the damage that in which a Lady Death, but in conjunction and combined, it works out really well. I'm utilizing the Gunner Specialist in this particular build just because I am at 1.3 million armor, and if you take some damage and can be able to, you know, dip, dive, dodge, duck, whatever, in the combination of all that, do some ballerina flips, get into some cover, apply the armor kit, and get that boost of bonus armor when you apply the armor kit, then it can really come in handy. Also, you could utilize the Demolitionist, since the Lady Death his magazine is so short at 32 magazines. Once your armor is popped, that you don't have to reload. So essentially, once your armor is popped, it refills your magazine. So essentially, giving the Lady Death 64 rounds. But if you're not using something like on the lines of Unbreakable, or someone in your group using the tardigrade chest piece, for instance, this particular build, if you want to use the Demolitionist, because someone is in your group is using the tardigrade, once your armor is procced and popped, you get that proc bonus armor from the tardigrade, but in conjunction, simultaneously, when your armor pops, you're getting your magazine refilled. So that is something worth thinking about when it comes to group play, or more of a solo or duo situations, or you just may like the extra bonus proc and armor from the Gunner. Sky's the limit, but you know, the choice is there, either or. Now here's where it gets a little dicey and different. As you can see, I'm utilizing the Vile Mask, but I'm only using a fixer drone and a decoy. And you're probably thinking, well, why are you using a vial mask if you're not using any skill whatsoever that's going to be giving any kind of status effect? Well, in conjunction with the vial mask, I'm using trauma. And trauma is you ding them in the noggin and it blinds them, or you ding them in the body and it puts them on bleed. But you can ding them in the noggin and ding them in the chest at the same time. And just like if you're running the vial mask and let's say a firefly, they take damage ticks once they're hit with a firefly, even though, just causing someone to be blind, such as the trauma chest piece by itself, they're just blind and they don't take no damage from that, besides the typical damage from weapon damage that you actually take to ding them in the noggin. But this way, they're taking ticks from blinding them with trauma, and also ticks from the bleed if you ding them in the chest. And if you ding them in the noggin first and then chest, or vice versa, you can essentially have both going off at the same time. Status effects apply. Add a damage over time debuff for 10 seconds. Total damage dealt is equal to 50% of your concussion grenade damage and increased by your status effect attributes. Well, so essentially, if you have them both ticking at the same time, just off one bullet to the head, one bullet to the chest, for instances and examples, they're taking over 100k per tick, and they're ticking quite fast, a lot faster than the tick of, let's say, just a pestilence. So essentially, that's an extra bullet per half second of 100,000 damage that they're taking. So essentially, you're giving 500 or 600k damage without firing an extra single shot or anything. So if you continuously shoot thereafter, then it's a heck of a lot of damage. But let's move on. Enough of my rambling. I know I ramble, but I want to be explanatory and explain enough to where you understand where I'm coming from. So let's move on to the chest piece. I'm utilizing trauma. With trauma, it's not the best rolls, but it does have max weapon damage on it. You want crit chance. And of course, status effect. Status effect is going to increase the length and the strength of that bleed and blind. Then of course I have critical hit damage as in the mod slot. Moving on to the gloves, we're utilizing the firm handshake because it comes with a 15% status effect attribute on it. Then I have critical hit damage and of course armor. Now the third piece that sucked me off, I went with the holster here with max armor, critical hit damage, and also status effect. The more percentage of that status effect you have on each piece, the higher that damage is going to be when it comes to that blind and bleed tick. And of course the knee pads is the Grupo Sombra knee pads, weapon damage, critical hit chance, and status effect. I wanted to hit as high as possible with that critical hit chance as I can. 60 is your max that you can get, so that way I'm maximizing my damage as I go. And finally, we are utilizing a Heliguard backpack. Why Heliguard? For that 5% total armor increase. It's not very much, but every little bit counts and helps out. And of course, I am utilizing Adrenaline Rush just because I'm at 1.3 million armor. You could go for extra weapon damage if you wanted to here, with like say one Walker Harris, or if you want to completely maximize your status effect, you can go with one piece of Golan. And one piece of Golan, only reason why I didn't switch to it is because I have one that has Perfectly Wicked on here, which does help out. But as you can see, I'm still at 1.3 million armor, so I'm squishy, especially without that Adrenaline Rush proc of bonus armor. And this one has armor regen. Now, if this one had, of course, the maximum amount of armor and let's say critical hit damage instead of armor regen, then I would use actually this here and then just change out another piece in the build from a red to a blue and put my armor up about 1.5 mil. 1.5 mil, I'm more comfortable without having that extra I guess cushion there from the Adrenaline Rush proc, since everybody wants to rush up with the Lady Death and Adrenaline Rush and of course Intimidate with the Lady Death. I need that extra additional armor, and since I don't utilize a shield and will never utilize that crutch shield for those shield dependents out there, kudos to you if that's what you decide to do, but I prefer not to. It's more of a gimmick and a crutch. And people use it because, let's just face it, they need that crutch because that's the only way they can actually PvP. Don't hate me, I'm just being honest here, as I always will with you guys. But if you want to maximize it, then go to Perfectly Wicked, change out a red to a blue to put yourself up at 1.5 million armor and have critical hit damage on the golem piece instead of where this piece has armor regen, and then you're good to go, and then you'll be outstanding. And then, of course, I have critical hit damage in the mod slot. As you can see, my watch score is only 442, which is I only have weapon damage maxed out. I don't have total armor maxed out at all. And then the only other ones I have maxed out is, of course, the reload speed, and then on my skill repair. So I'm missing out a lot as far as the critical hit damage on this slot that I'm missing at 10%. The reason why my critical hit damage is low. So if you have a maxed out watch, then this damage is going to be more potent and more effective. But if I can make it work at only 442 SHD level on my watch, then this can actually work for you, because I'm mediocre at PvP. So if you are more of a PvPer and have better talents than I do when it comes to strafing, and you don't have potato aim like I do, then this build is going to work out for you without having the crutch of utilizing the contractor gloves and, of course, the Fox's Prayer knee pads. But if you want to see the extensive gameplay of this build in action, then be sure to check out the video that I previously uploaded with, there's two different builds that's in it. The second half, around, I'd say, the 5 to 6 minute mark to the end, is utilizing this build here. It is entitled, Are They Delusional? So go check that out if you want to see the gameplay for this build, or I'll be live streaming tomorrow night around 10 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to see live action of this build, then stay tuned for that live stream. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm going to get back to trying to find out more creative ways instead of these cookie cutter cut and paste. Somebody that's done posted on YouTube probably 10 times over in the last 4 months that everybody's using because they can't think for themselves. Yeah, I'm going to continuously work on builds as you actually have to think and try to be creative and think out of the box without having utilizing broken mechanics, but yet still be competitive and compete with those bot builds that are out there. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Appreciate all the love and support. We'll see you fledging later.